Ciao a tutte le ascoltatrici e a tutti gli ascoltatori di Radio Quar e ben ritrovati ad una nuova puntata di Music in a Box. Sono Salvatore, il nostro programma dedicato alle interviste. E oggi con me a Music in a Box c'è Alberto. Ciao Alberto.
Ciao a tutti.
Oggi Alberto siamo particolarmente felici ed orgogliosi perché intervisteremo un super ospite, uno che abbiamo, un artista che abbiamo consumato i suoi dischi, ovvero Steve Von Till, già componente dei Neurosis, ma alle spalle con una notevole carriera come solista. E bando alle ciance, vado a presentare subito il nostro ospite che, come dicevo prima, è stato tra i fondatori dei Neurosis e chitarra e voce. È inutile sottolineare l'importanza e l'impatto che hanno avuto e hanno ancora oggi i Neurosis sulla scena metal, post-metal. E inoltre Steve Von Till ha fatto parte del side project dei Neurosis, ovvero i Tribes of Neuroth, e poi ha iniziato nel 2000 a pubblicare anche a suo nome una copiosa produzione solista, e così come ha pubblicato due album anche a nome Hardwest. Hi Steve.
Hello.
Thank you to being here with me and Alberto, and be warmly welcome to Radio Quar.
Yeah, thank you to both of you for having me and for your time.
How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. So it's summer vacation for me from work, so I'm enjoying my time, getting ready for a tour in about a month.
Okay.
Steve, my first question is about an interview you had with I don't remember the magazine, but it's like 2 years ago maybe, and it was about you were just released No Wilderness Deep Enough, and in this interview you will say that some song just took life by accident. You said without intending to. And so my first question, that it's not a classical first question of an interview, but I was asking, is it something, so this process of the songs came in by accident, as you said, surprised you? I mean, you've been making music for more than 30 years, more or less. And I can imagine you've experienced many different ways of making music, composing, both in a band and in solo, alone, at home, in the studio. So were you surprised about this process, or is just something that happens with quite commonly?
I suppose it was kind of a mixed feeling, because I am not surprised by the accidental process. I mean, that's something that has happened quite a lot over the years in bits and pieces. Oftentimes the whole idea of learning to surrender and follow the music instead of trying to create the music often creates something much stronger and better. Whenever you try to force art or music, or you have an idea in your head intellectually, at least in my experience, the idea is always inferior and weaker than when you just surrender to the sound and follow where the sound wants to take you. So I'm not surprised that that's a big part of the process. The what I like to call happy accidents have always been a part of the process. I was surprised, however, that with the ease at which this entire record took shape, I never felt that I was working on songs or music. The interview you're referring to, I was probably describing how it came about, and it came about when I was in Germany at my wife's parents' house, and their family has been living on the exact same house site for over 500 years. And so it's a very different energy than out here in the Wild West, you know, where only Native Americans have been here that long. And even for European standards, that's a long time for one family to be in one place, you know.
Yeah.
So there's a heaviness, there's a deep presence there of connection to place. And I think because I was having a very bad case of jet lag and I could not sleep, I was awake with this laptop and a simple little keyboard, and I was just messing around because I couldn't sleep and just recording some simple ideas that I did not think were even worth saving, really. And I just did that for a whole week, you know, like with simple piano sounds and adding some mellotron strings and some synthesizers and it really just keeping it very simple. And it was just to pass time, you know, something to do instead of watching television or something. But when I came home and I was working in the studio a little while later, I opened up those files and they seemed interesting, and I started fleshing them out with my analog synthesizers, and I started arranging it into something that was taking a shape, and I still had no idea what it was. I did not intend to make it. Was not a Harvest Man record because it wasn't psychedelic guitars, or you know, it wasn't kind of like that, and it didn't feel like a solo record because I had no vocal plans for it whatsoever. And so I thought maybe I had accidentally created an ambient record with a kind of neoclassical spin, you know, a neoclassical vibe, an ambient record. You know, I mean, I've listened to a lot of minimalist composers over the years, and you know, Brian Eno and Stars of the Lid and things like that have always been big influences for me, but not usually musically, just as far as interest. And so I sent those songs to my friend Randall Dunn, who recorded my previous solo record, and I told him, I said, hey, I don't know what this is, but I would like to go into a studio and replace the digital piano with a real piano performance, and to find a cello player to bring some life into the string synthesizers, and maybe a French horn player to take the place of the French horn samples I put in the music. And he came back a few days later and he said, yes, we should do that, but you should also not be a coward. You should sing on it and make it your next solo record. And I said, no, that's wrong. This music is beautiful. It does not need my ugly voice. Yeah, on there. But I respect his opinion enough to try it. And so I sat for a week. I was home alone during a winter break. And so every morning I set up a microphone. Instead of coming out here to the studio, I just set one up in the living room. And every morning when I built the fire in the wood stove, you know, the dogs and I would sit with my cup of coffee, and I would have my notebook, and I would just improvise vocal melodies. And after 1 week, I had all the words, I had all of the lyrics, I had all of the vocal melodies, and I called him back and I told him that he was right, that it absolutely was my next solo record. And so that's how we did it. We spent a few days doing those performances and mixing it down, you know, putting the real piano and the vocals down, and he had his landlord do the strings there in New York, and we had French horns recorded there in Brooklyn as well, and it came out better than I could have ever dreamed. And I think part of the reason is because it never felt like I was working. You know, it never felt like I was putting labor into it. It just felt like it was falling into place naturally.
It's amazing.
What are the main differences and difficulties you find between working in a band and alone?
Um, well, the difficulty of working in a band in the way my life is set up is that I live in the middle of nowhere, and so it requires getting in an airplane to play with other people. You know, I don't live near anybody, so um, it's just logistics. And the difficulty of working alone is you can often feel trapped in your own universe, and you don't know if things are good or bad, or and most of the time, just because of my own perspective, I most of the time think that it sucks and that it's not worth putting out, or it's not worth pursuing, and that it's no good because I'm not getting the feedback, from anybody, positive or negative. You can second guess yourself too much. So it's nice to work with other human beings, to have more brains and more hearts. The more brains is smarter than one, and more hearts is deeper than one. So I like the connection of working with other people. Even on the solo work, I prefer to be able to have a collaboration, at least at some part of the process, even if it's just the recording and mixing.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you were talking about you're living in the middle of nowhere, but so talking about music and environment, and so what is around you. So my first question is, how long have you been living in North Idaho? And the second question is, how much do you think the place you live in had an impact on the evolution, the growth of yourself, and musically speaking, of your musical style? I mean, do you think that in a different condition, let's take your last record, so No Wilderness Deep Enough, for example, would have sounded different?
Well, I've lived here for 18 years. And so I've made a lot of different music since I've lived here. For my self-growth, I mean, I needed to get out of the city. When my first daughter was born, I was living in the busy part of San Francisco, and everything I loved about the city life at that time instantly turned ugly. I see the human piss and shit in the street, and the needles in the gutter, and the just the endless distraction of modern life that doesn't seem so important once I was a father. And then so we moved to suburbs for about 5 years while I figured out how we would get somewhere where I could have. It was very important for me to have all 4 seasons. Growing up in the Bay Area in California, I never got to live in winter. So I wanted a place with mountains and lakes and trees and snow, and all 4 seasons. And I think it was important for me personally to connect to the earth and to connect to something besides the busyness of humans that are disconnected from the earth, and I wanted to raise my children in a place with less pressure, where they could be children and be free to roam around without worrying so much about other people. And artistically, and I was heading that direction anyway, I was trying to find more space in the music, even in Neurosis music. Trying to balance the psychedelic aspects of things like Harvestman, the intense aspects of Neurosis, but finding more space within it, and also developing my solo work as a songwriter and a singer. And it's impossible to say how life would be different, but it would be totally different. If I didn't move to Idaho, I wouldn't have met my current wife, and I wouldn't have been in Germany, and I wouldn't have written No Wilderness Deep Enough at all. It would, it's like the time machine, paradox. You change one little thing, and the entire future is different, right? So I'd say it's completely important. I have more space. I walk around my 12 acres of forest every morning, no matter what the season is. And even having that space and that peace and that nature around me, I can still find it really easy to get caught up in negative thoughts. And so I figure if I was still in a crowded place, it would be way worse. So it's definitely improved my life in a lot of ways, musically and personally.
Yeah. So I would like to stay in this topic because this intrigued me a lot. Because the way you speak about your life, your daily routine, your teacher job shows apparently a really happy man. I don't know if that's true, but I don't know if you always have been this happy because the question is the violence and the urgency of albums like I don't maybe like True Silver in Blood, maybe as a spectator from the outside seems more the result of youthful rage, impatience, anger. So the question is, do you think there's a connection between the mood you're in and the music and the music that follows it? Because you were talking about more space, more because it was related to the place you were living in this precise moment. So what do you think about this? I don't know if I've been clear enough.
Yeah. Happy is probably not the right word. I'm open to joy, and I'm open to the idea of being happy, but and often I am in certain times, but there's a certain there's a deep sadness that gets more intense over time that I has not gotten better as I get older because of observing our disconnection to each other as human beings, to the earth as the planet, the extinction of so many species of other life forms, the hatred and the anger and the absolute idiocy of people. I am sometimes so consumed with anger over human beings, still to this day, as much as ever. Maybe more so because I know more. I see what people do and the way people treat each other, and I'm often consumed by anger, and I have to really work hard to keep it under control. And music is part of the way I do that, and always has been. And able to putting it into something positive instead of negatively taking it out on other people. And the deep sadness of thinking constantly about humanity's disconnection from nature, my own disconnection from I'm getting better at it with age, but the more I learn that like it's a cliche, the more you know, the more you know you don't know, right? And so there's a lot of wonderful things happening in the world and a lot of positive things, but you know, with our modern society and social media and the way that people report things and the way people are becoming so polarized, socially and politically, uh, it's yeah, I don't think happiness is something that is an overwhelming feeling for me. I think trying to find balance
It's more
is
accurate.
something I do with art, but I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel overwhelmingly happy. I think I'm trying to find my place in the universe like anyone else, and some days I do better than others.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Steve, um, moving on your last records, like Harvestman on 23 untitled poems, you read your Awan poems. Have you thought about letting someone else read them? We are not saying you read badly. It's more about letting someone else express something so personal, like a poem is.
I never considered that. No,
Ah, okay, okay.
unless maybe somebody with a great voice, you know, like James Earl Jones, or yeah.
Okay, thanks.
No, yeah.
And watching at your production and all over the years, you've got one single episode. I don't think I'm wrong about working for a movie, for the soundtrack of a movie with an Italian director, Alex Infascelli. It's like almost 20 years ago. The question is, was that your first experience in the genre, and would you like to do it again? If you don't.
Yeah, that was my only experience doing a soundtrack, and in fact, that I had just moved here. This room I'm sitting in right now, this studio room, is inside of a barn on my property, and I didn't have this room built when I moved here, and I was offered that job in winter, and I had to build this room to do that soundtrack. So mostly that Alex Infascelli had contacted me because I think our Italian distributor, from a guy from Goodfellas, had given him my CD, and he was in the middle of cutting the film, and he liked the tempo, and he liked the energy and the vibe, and so he contacted me, and you know, it was a small budget film, but it you know, it paid enough to help me buy the wood, you know, to build the room, and basically all he really wanted me to do was to do my own thing anyway. He sent me scenes and sent me things to look at, but I just kind of stayed with the energy that I was tuned into at the time, since that's what he was attracted to anyway. So I sent him a lot of ideas, and most of them worked. If a couple things didn't, and we reapproached a few things, but it wasn't again, that was very natural. Like, he was wanting what I would naturally do anyway, and I just kind of adapted a few themes to fit what I was seeing, you know, and just kind of responded. And I really enjoyed it. I would be interested in that again if it had that kind of freedom. You know, I think if somebody was trying to ask me to do something that wasn't in my comfort zone, it would be more difficult. But
sure.
But it just worked. Yeah, it worked perfectly. I would. Once.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. And Steve, do you think it's fair to say that the growth and increasing popularity of digital music, as well as that of streaming platforms, are a threat or even potentially the end of those networks and relationships that musicians have been using to support each other so far. And by that I mean musicians getting together in person to collaborate or at least communicating.
That's hard to say, you know. On one sense, digital platforms have made it more equal access for everyone to make music and make it public. But at the same time, when it's so easy for people to make their music public, there's so much out there, it can get lost in the endless sea of stuff. Whereas in the old days, it took a lot more work to figure out how to make a record and put it out there physically, and to do the work. You'd have to, you know, you couldn't record and mix a record in your bedroom and upload it to the internet from your bedroom. You know, you had to interact. So, like, you're asking, is it the death of people collaborating? You know, I mean, since I come from the mid 80s kind of DIY punk community, I hope not. I hope that people still have to find each other physically, and people still put the importance on live music. You know, like I think that it has made it more important that people get out there and play in front of people. You know, and that the networks of people doing underground shows and, you know, basement shows, house shows, small clubs, art galleries, you know, independent. I think there will always be a desire for people to do that. And even though I'm older now and maybe not connected with the young people doing the underground, I really hope that there are young people out there finding their own version of independence and rebellion against the norm, and finding their own people, finding their own tribe of people around the world that they can relate to. So, like, for me, that's why I'm so excited to spend my summer, you know, going on tour. I mean, I just want to, travel and connect with people and make music with people that are interesting and doing things in their town, and yeah, I think, and I hope that there will still be a need for artists to physically gather and physically be together, and I think there's a lot of examples of that still.
Okay.
And so, Steve, a classic question. So, as a singer and as a musician, would like to ask you if you are like me, are a strong listener. I mean, you are listening to a lot of music, and if you are always updating yourself and listening to the new stuff and things, or you find yourself coming back or returning to your comfort zone of a listener, of listeners. And what are those 3 records, let's say 3 records you will take to a desert island?
You mean 300? Yeah. Oh, that's almost impossible. I think it would have to be 3 mixtapes of different stuff, you know? I mean, every hour that you ask me that question, I would have a different response.
Yeah. Okay,
You
you can.
know?
No, I would like to know if you are you listening a lot of music in this period? Are you a great listener, or you're just trying to stay far from the new wave of I don't know, now it's everybody seems to play some sort of post-punk or whatever what it is.
Well, I listen to a lot of music all the time, but I don't know what popular people are listening to.
Okay.
I probably listen. I listen to a lot of vintage dub music. You
Yeah.
know, like King Tubby, the Scientist.
On your sound.
On You Sound is, yeah. Adrian Sherwood is probably my favorite, and I listen to the new and the old from that label quite a bit. I listen to a lot of old punk. Um, you know, as it comes, if you know if I need to just get out there in the world and drive my car fast and roll down the window, I'll always crank some old Motorhead. You know, if I need a rock and roll burst, I listen to a lot of the kind of minimalist composers like Johan Johansson,
Yeah.
uh, Olafur Arnolds,
Mhm.
uh, and the like. I listen to a lot of ambient music. I listen to a lot of Brian Eno, Stars of the Lid, Hammock, um, Aphex Twin. Um, I listen to a lot of stuff that Neurat puts out, like Pet Brick and Deaf Kids. Um, I listen to a lot of psychedelic music. I mean, there's so much, like Jimi Hendrix is going to be one of my favorites until I die.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you know some Italian band? Uh,
well,
for example, Raw Power is
oh, Screams from the Gutter is a fucking great record. Yeah, Raw Power, Screams from the Gutter is a classic. In fact, I was just a couple months ago, because I don't have it on vinyl. I was trying to see if somebody had reissued it, and I think somebody did reissue it. I need to find it and order it, but I remember I saw them. They played the Farm in San Francisco when I was a teenager, and I really loved it. And I started collecting some bands back then. Negazione.
yeah, Negazione.
Um, uh, uh, who else? Let's see. Raw Power.
Wretched.
Oh, Wretched. I still have that LP.
Yeah.
The Wretched LP. Indigesti.
Yeah, Indigesti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, we've put out the last few UFO Mammoth
Oh, yeah, yeah.
records on our record label.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, yeah, as far as current Italian bands, I'm not that aware of much other than UFO Mammoth and their side projects. But I don't know. Are any of those older bands still around?
Uh, no, no, no. Uh, no, Alberto, non hanno. Alberto, ci sei?
Yeah. Come here we are.
Yeah.
Ah, ok, ok, ok.
Someone did something strange to the video. Now we're hanging out
Yeah.
in a
No. Is it okay?
it's it's got a fake background of that we are sitting in a park together.
Yeah.
Okay. So can I go with the next question? So we're
Yeah.
okay. So Steve, your tour is about to start in about a month, more or less. And so unfortunately, we won't see you in Italy, but it happens. So nothing we can do about it. So I want to ask you, can you, however, anticipate who will be with you in Europe and on stage? Will there be a band or just you?
Yeah, it'll be a band much like the lineup I took across the United States last summer. It'll be a four-piece band. I'll be, of course, singing and playing piano and playing acoustic guitar and electric guitar. My friend Dave French will be playing Moog synthesizers, soft synths, guitar, and percussion. My friend Braden Diot will be playing organ and synthesizer. And a guy from Belgium named JP Vanasha will be playing the double bass to play the string parts.
Okay.
And Steve, what songs will be on the set list on your in your tour?
Almost all of the No Wilderness Deep Enough record. I think all except for one song, and several songs off A Life Unto Itself, the previous record, and a couple older ones.
Okay, thank you. And Steve, another question. How difficult it is to carry on the work of an independent label like Neurot Recordings in years like this?
I mean, it's always been difficult. You know, it's we put out small, strange bands and we put out weird music, and it's not easy to sell strange music, you know. And in the shift from CDs to vinyl, as much as I love vinyl a lot more than I like CDs, from a business standpoint, it's a lot more expensive to make vinyl records. It is it's more of a risk, and the profit margin is a lot smaller, you know. Back in the day, you would just, a CD costs $2 and a distributor will pay you $7, but an LP will cost you $8 and a distributor will pay you $11. So you're getting a smaller profit on a bigger investment, and it makes it harder. And we've never made money from the record label except for paying the people that work on it, paying the PR people and paying the woman who is the kind of does the day-to-day work when I'm at my job. But as far as like us making profit off it, we've never made any. It only just goes to working on the next project. Whatever comes in goes to the next one, and it's kind of always just a part of what I felt inspired to do. Again, growing up in the mid 80s DIY punk scene, it's you don't expect anyone else to do something for you. You book your own shows, you put out your own records. If you're not in a band, then you put on shows. If you're not doing a record label, then you do a fanzine. It's all part of contributing to the underground, contributing to the culture, and I think that just stuck with me. And as difficult as it is, I don't know what else to do. That's just what I feel driven to do, and I like the idea of helping other bands out and working with other artists that I feel some sort of kinship with, because other people helped us out when we were young, so I want to do the same.
Okay.
And do you think the first Neurosis albums will be reprinted, reissue?
I think we will keep all that in print over time.
So I have to ask you this, but can you tell us what future will Neurosis have? Nothing. And what's your next future?
Well, right now I'm working on my next solo record. I have almost the whole thing written. I'm just trying to think of how to approach it to make it to the next spot. I have 3 Harvest Man LPs that are all related that I'm working on as well. And yeah, that's mostly what it is. Yeah, with Neurosis, we just have nothing to say at this moment because we don't know how or if we may move forward or not. It's just it's a difficult situation that we have no answer to. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry. It was just a curiosity by a fan of a long time, so no problems. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
yeah,
we've almost made all the questions we had in mind. So Salvatore, there's something left to do?
No.
Yeah. So Steve, can you? We're done. We're done. We're okay. And
Okay.
thank you for your patience, for your time, and for your words.
Yeah.
And it's been a pleasure and an honor, really. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you,
the both
Steve.
of you. I appreciate it very much. Yeah, you guys keep up the good work, putting out the celebrating good music out there and underground
Thank you,
art.
Steve.
As much as we can.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Bye, Steve.
Bye. See
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Ciao.
Bye.